Row 18, plot 20.
I'm not sure if it played, but I'm here. So, hello everybody, and welcome to my review of Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. So, this movie was directed by Scott Glosserman, and it was released in March 2007. And I actually had never ever heard of this. When I looked at the release date, I was trying to take myself back to where I was, and I'm like, I don't know where I could have been to have missed this. But I enjoyed it. I was very thankful for the recommendation because it had a cast of people that I do enjoy, some familiar faces. Um, so we have the cast of one of my favorite people, Zelda Rubinstein. And no matter what she's in, she brings her little personality to everything. And also Robert Englund, who played Doc Halloran, and Angela Goethals. She is our main character, our Taylor Gentry, who is our journalist. Who um, is actually the person who is filming and interviewing Leslie Vernon, who's played by Nathan Basil. And he is quite an interesting character. And I just want to get into it that I did not know, and I could not remember, and Jim helped me earlier remember who Kane Hodder was. And I'm like, Jim, I've seen him before. What has he played in? And he reminded me. And I felt terrible that I could not remember him. But the Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, um, is a mockumentary. And I did not know that at first as well. So when I saw the trailer, I was a little confused at first, and so then I had to read, what it was about. So we have Leslie Vernon, and he is this nice, normal-looking guy, kind of quirky, and has a sense of humor in his own way, and he has an obsession. Um, with movie style slasher serial killers, like Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger and Jason. And he aspires to be this way. And he just doesn't want to be a serial killer, he wants to be a supernatural serial killer. He wants to have that kind of legacy, as they all do. As we've seen them, you know, at least we've assumed that they were dead or getting killed, and then they're back because there's a sequel. And he is obsessed with this, and this is what he wants to do. So he has given permission to a young lady, Taylor Gentry, who is a student and aspiring to be a journalist, and she has been following, Michael Myers, and she's gone on Elm Street to interview, people who were there with Freddy Krueger and things like that. So now she has taken her. They were actually invited to come to meet him and to do a documentary on what it is to be a serial killer. And during this meeting in this interview, um, she starts to ask some questions, and he can't describe it to her. Like he says to her, I just can't describe, I can't tell you by just meeting you, what it is, I do, or how it is I do. You would have to experience it for yourself, he says to her. And so he takes her and her film crew along with him, I would say a day in the life, of what it is to be him, this aspiring movie slasher serial killer. And he's got a very elaborate plan. He's done his research. Um, And he expresses some of this to her, on the way as they're getting to know each other. Um, and he's taking her to an old friend's house, Eugene. And Eugene has a wife, and her name is Jamie. And they appear to be a normal couple, a very loving couple, a very affectionate couple. And they come into the home. And when they first come, Jamie answers the door, to him and welcomes him in, and is familiar with the film crew or what he was going to be doing. So she invites everyone into the house, and lets him know that, hey, you need to probably go out back and get Eugene. He's been out there for a while. I'm not sure, she says, because she's been busy doing this and that. And Taylor, watching this, gives off some very, I don't know, I love her expressions through this whole entire movie. Like, they're priceless. And she is perfect for this part. So if you're looking for something that will make you feel like you're actually watching a slasher serial killer movie, and also sort of just a tad bit of comedy, this is it. And she is the person for that. Um, and they go into meet. They go out back, and they're actually carrying shovels. And he's telling her that Eugene is a friend of his, and he was also a serial killer, but he is now retired. And so she's listening, and they're filming, and they're following along with him. And they now have to dig into the ground, and she's asking him, like, what are we doing? And she goes, well, he's in a chamber, a hyperbaric chamber underneath here, and she's asking him why, and he's giving her, all the reasons why, someone would like them would be in one, to control, their bodily functions and things like that, when they're out, I guess you would say, on the prowl, looking for the person that they're going to be, killing next. I don't know. So she looks at him, and she as she's digging into the ground, she wants to know, well, if he's retired, like, why does he still do this, and there's really no answer. So they're getting him out. Once they dig him out of the ground, and they open this chamber he's in there, they find out he's been in there for 3 days. Like, it's just, there's some parts of it where I could not help but have a hearty laugh, because I couldn't believe it, because what we're actually looking at is, like, I would say, a behind the scenes of it. And it's really, yeah, that's what it is. It's a behind the scenes of it, of a day in the life of this guy, Leslie. And they get him out of there. They get Eugene out of there, and they take him in the house. He goes in, and he takes a shower, and he comes out, and he's revived. I guess whatever he did in the hyperbaric chamber in that shower, it just revived him. He comes to life, and they're sharing stories, and different techniques or different things. But the couple, the relationship between he and his wife is just so normal and wholesome, in the affection that they show towards each other. It's just like hard to believe that someone that would commit such gruesome crimes would have such a loving relationship at home with his wife, and be able to sit down and have a meal and share, stories and experiences of how and what. And as the time goes by, before they leave, he's sharing, that he has a person, that he's been watching, and things that he's been thinking of doing. And Eugene even gives him some suggestions, and even the wife chimes in on some. Jamie, she chimes in on some. I gave him some advice as he's leaving. He wanted to. He mentions that he was going to off one of her friends, and Eugene says, "Oh no, I don't know about that. That's kind of maybe too close." He says to him, do you have anyone else in mind? Does she have any other friends or anybody else she hangs around? And they're having like this really nonchalant conversation about, like whatever options that he may have to to kill someone, as well. And he says, well, she does go to the library a lot. And they say, well, there's probably one that she's really close to, or one. And he goes, yeah, there is. So he gives him a thumbs up and tells him, that's a great idea, and a good luck, and they leave, and she continues to go on, with the filming of everything. And he takes her, which I forgot in the beginning, he actually takes her to a restaurant of his survivor girl that he's chosen, um, he wanted to survive, and beat him at the end. And so he shows them how he sets it all up, and he's got a brick outside of the door, and when she comes out to take out the trash, he has something tied around it so he can pull it out and the door will slam and she'll run out. Like, he has everything planned out to like a script, literally a script of what is going to happen and how it's going to happen, the reaction of everyone, and who's going to die first and what's going to happen. And he's explaining these things to her, to Taylor, very emotionless kind of, and nonchalant, but he's very serious about it. And I think for Taylor, she was looking at it as if, yeah, she's really filming this, and yeah, she's really met this guy, but it's somewhere in the back of her head, she really doesn't believe he's going to follow through with these things. I kept getting this feeling the way she's looking at him. And as everything goes by, and he's, shows her things, he takes her out to a place where they used to live. And because he is supposed to be dead, he is not supposed to be alive, because the story is he was, as a child, thrown over into the water, and supposedly the water froze over. He was not able to survive. Now he is alive, and he is planning and plotting, to be this serial killer. He's trying to create a legacy for himself, I guess. He's putting all this stuff into motion. Um, and now he's at a point where he takes her to the house, and they go into this barn area, and he's at an apple press, an apple crusher. And I'm not sure what she thought he was going to say or do, but he puts an apple in, and he's winding it up, and she's like, so what's going to happen? What's this? And he goes, it's an apple crusher. And so she goes, well, what's going to happen? What are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to crush up some apples. We're going to make some juice. And then he bites into the apple, just like, as a matter of factly, kind of, what else do you think I'm going to do? He had a brief moment where he'd be very serious about things, and then that was like his one moment of humor he had. Um, Even though it was a mockumentary, to me, it was still a little creepy, at that point, because it was like he was teasing her a little bit, giving her a little bit of things, and I didn't know. And it just felt like he was setting her up for something, and then as time goes by, I forget, some way they end up back with Eugene and his wife, and they're talking about some other things, and they leave, and they get to the point where he is preparing himself. He has been, this is his life's work, and he's explaining this to her, tonight is the night, and he's worked up and built himself up, and he's ready, and he's invited her to film this, and be a part of this. So he has shown her everything, the plan, and it's set in motion, and he's ready. And they get there, and he's telling her about how many people are going to be in the house, and where they're going to be located in the house, and what they're going to be doing, in the house, when he's going to be doing this and that. And boom, everything starts going into motion. Oh, I forget, that is what I missed when he went back to Eugene and to see Jamie. He went to tell them about Doc Holleran. And Doc Holleran um, would be um, this doctor who had seen him in another state, and who is now following him, to track him down to make sure that he does not do this again or whatever. And he calls him his Ahab in his plan of things. And he has his survivor girl Kelly, and then he has his Ahab, who is Doc Holleran, who represents everything, that is good, and he is going to do whatever it is to, at any cost, to try to stop him. And so he is also in this very similar to uh, the Halloween movies, and he is now there. The house is, everyone is in place, everything is going on just as he has planned. And before this, he is dressing himself, he's preparing himself, and he's putting things on his face. And she's asking him, like, what is he doing, or what exactly is, the stuff he's putting on. And he's explaining to her he's preparing himself, and it's preparation H, and some other things that he's putting on his face to keep it numb, and a fire retardant, just in case something, someone tries to set him on fire, anything that would protect him, while he is on his killing spree. And he also has this mask. And I've actually never seen anything quite like it. I've never really been creeped out about too many things, but in this documentary, for it to be that, it was quite creepy. And it will almost have you following it as if you were watching an actual slasher movie. So that it would be the other attraction for anyone who says they don't like comedy mixed with their horror. I think would be the one that you would enjoy, because you may stop even watching it as a mockumentary and really get into it as if it's a real slasher movie, because it has that type of feel, and it brings you into it that way, because the characters, I don't know, I guess they played it so good, and it was directed like this. It was so good. Um, but anyway, they get to a point where she can't go on with this. She sees to where his momentum is built up, and he has actually put the mask on. He's letting her know tonight is the night, and someone is going to get hurt. He said it's going to get wet, and those were his words. It's going to get wet. And he goes and he kills his first two victims, and she hears this, and that is it for her. That is it for her. She tells him that, and she has this look on the face, and he says, "What's wrong? You have this look on your face that you don't want to be here." So he said, "We might as well say our goodbyes, now, because it's gonna happen. This is gonna happen. I don't care." He's like, "I don't care what's going on. You're not gonna ruin my life's work. It's gonna happen." And he had his mind set on it. And he walks away, and she's talking to her film crew, uh, and Todd and Doug, and she's letting them know, we already know his plan. We know everything that he's going to do. We have to, we can't let him go through with this. We have to sabotage this. We can't let him go through this. Um, he had already at the beginning warned them never to go to the restaurant, to speak to Kelly and make her a part of this documentary, because she was to know of nothing. She wasn't supposed to be warned of any of this, and they get to where she is trying to foil and trying to go in to warn them what's going to happen. Um, and Kelly is aware of some things because they show her going into the library previous to this and doing some research. And supposedly she is related to someone who is supposed to be either his great uncle or something like that. I'm not sure, but she's picking up some type of research and doing something on him. And this librarian, who she is close to, is giving her the story and saying, that No one should have this thing. They don't print things out anymore. They do it this way. And she takes her back, and he's showing her in part of the plan where that's where he would go in, to do this to them. Now they get to the point where she's warning everyone. She's trying to foil this, and she's trying to remember and go in her head like what he's going to do next or what would happen. Some of this doesn't go as planned because his survivor girl, Kelly, is not a virgin like was supposed to be. But when they're doing this and they're sitting there, Kelly or Taylor is actually figuring this out and putting this together, and they're discussing this to figure out that Kelly is really not the survivor girl. Taylor is really the survivor girl. And that, that was the whole reason that he had been watching her. And that's why he invited her to do this. So she goes into kind of a panic mode, and they go through a series of whatever other slasher film would go through of the killing of the victims, of the one by one, and then the bodies are being seen or found here and there. And they accidentally knock out, I think, the doctor, Doc Holleran. And oh gosh, I went off on a stray. They knock out Doc Holleran, and but he doesn't get killed. And they Todd actually comes across him, and he's trying to plead with him like, hey guy, it's me, it's me. And he wanted him to look at him like, hey, take the mask, but look at me, it's me. We can do this together, guy. He's trying to talk to him, like, I've been documenting this whole thing, I've been with you this whole time, guy. I haven't said anything, I haven't doubted you for one moment. We can do this together. And and for one moment he's looking at him, and I'm thinking he's gonna have a heart, and say, yeah, we can do this together. And he's like, yeah, no. And he kills Todd. So that just leaves her, with Doug left, and they are trying to escape him. And Doug just comes out and confesses his love for her so that she doesn't get hurt. He confesses his love for Taylor so she doesn't get hurt. And Leslie just pushes him out of the way, knocks him out, goes after her. And Taylor, she just, she ends it all. And they go to the scene where that apple crusher comes back in hand, where he says to her, where she wanted to know, what is this? What's going to happen? And some kind of way he falls, and he falls into there, and she pushes it down, and she crushes it. And he says, I knew you would be the one. I think it's what, I knew you would be the one, so dramatic. And then she starts this fire and sets everything on fire. And she and the Doc Holleran and Doug, they're standing there watching everything burn. And they just wanted to know, like, who is he? What is he? And the doctor says, he's just a man. He's just a man. And it was just, it took you back to, I would say, Halloween, when Michael Myers, would get caught on fire, or things would happen and you think he's gone. And so I'm just watching, and I'm watching to the end like, is something going to happen? Nothing happened. But I will say, this movie, I watched it a few times because, like I said, the first time I actually didn't know it was a mockumentary. And I thought it was an actual slasher movie, with a little dark comedy. And then I read and I found out it wasn't. So I rewatched. And then I rewatched again because I missed a few things. And I would say thank you for the recommendation. Thank you for that, because it gave me time to watch something that had dark humor, and a little horror. And I tell you, for myself, if you're like me, you're going to go in and out, because I don't know if it's the combination of the director, the cast, the script. It was a good one. It really was. It gave me pretty much anything that I would be looking for dark comedy, um, and just to see Robert Englund and Zelda Rubinstein, two of my favorite people, and all the new faces that I did see. Scott Wilson is a good familiar face, but once again, the mask, behind the mask, the rise of Leslie Vernon, I give it a thumbs up. It was a great watch for me. So if anyone is looking for dark comedy with a little horror, I'd say go watch it.
So have your drink. Go on and sing your song. There's nothing wrong with singing out of tune. If people laugh and say your dream can never be, just think of me